going on, guys? Welcome to a special Sunday edition of 4th and 25 with Jram. Guys, apologies, I did not get to do this yesterday. Had to make a trip to the doc. Had to take my soon-to-be wife to the doctor. She had to go get checked up on something, but family always first, correct? She'll always be before anything else besides the Lord above. Hope y'all having a wonderful day out there. Hope you're staying cool. Heat's been crazy, but it's summertime. What y'all expect? What do we expect? All right, guys. So we've got a loaded show today. We got a lot to talk about. So without any further ado, let's get this part of the show on the road, shall we? Okay. So this week we've had a lot of realignment going on in the FCS ranks. Plus, the Pac-12 finally looks to have an eighth football member. So let's jump in and take a look at what's been going on in the realignment world. So, first things first, we have another one of these partnerships, strategic alliances, as the Atlantic Sun and the United Athletic Conference look to be. They have entered a strategic alliance for their leagues. The story is, reporting Wednesday, there were talks of a partnership of a rebranded WAC. Of course, that's now the United Athletic Conference. Sun Commissioner Jeff Bacon says, "We are proud to launch this innovative D1 Conference Alliance, creating an environment where institutions can elevate their programs, leverage collective resources, champion a new era of collegiate athletics. This strategic alliance reflects our dedication to empowering the next generation of leaders, both in and off the field, ensuring a legacy of success for impact for years to come. It will be 8 members. 7 of them, of course, are fielding football schools. As far as football goes, it'll be Tarleton State, Abilene Christian, Eastern Kentucky, North Alabama, Austin Peay, Central Arkansas, and West Georgia, plus UT Arlington, but they don't have football currently. The 7 remaining schools from the Atlantic Sun who don't have football: Bellarmine, Lipscomb, Queens, Jacksonville, North Florida, Stetson, and Florida Gulf Coast. If those of you who watch college basketball remember Florida Gulf Coast probably will. Either do not field football or play in a non-scholarship league. So, if you merge them together, here is a look of it with these 8 schools. Like I say, there's Tarleton, Abilene Christian, Austin Peay. If you want to know where these schools are, let's see. Tarleton's in Texas, Abilene Christian's in Texas, Austin Peay is in Tennessee. You got Central Arkansas, Eastern Kentucky, North Alabama, West Georgia at the bottom, and then that's UT Arlington right above them. So, got some shuffling going on. And then, with this also comes the announcement of the Big Sky Conference is doing a little more expanding. As in 2026, they will be adding Utah Tech and Southern Utah. Of course, they're also losing Sacramento State, who's already informed them that they are moving on to they want to move up to the FBS. However, that waiver was denied. So, not exactly sure what's going to happen with Sacramento State right now. But these are the 11 schools for 2026. You have the newbies, Southern Utah and Utah Tech. Now, Southern Utah's been in this league in the past and won this league, so they know it all too well. Plus Weber State, Portland State, Northern Colorado, Northern Arizona, the powerhouse Montana State, another powerhouse Montana, Idaho State, Idaho, and Eastern Washington. So we've had a lot of shuffling going on this week. Also, it looks to finally be, sip of coffee. It looks to be that finally the Pac-12 has an 8th football school. Now, this is not official yet, but it looks to be coming on Monday because Texas State's Board of Regents has scheduled a meeting on Monday where it looks like they will formally accept the invitation, per ESPN's Pete Thamel, one of the best in the business. Yeah, here it is. Board of Regents on Monday, and they expected to accept the invitation. And they have also indicated that Texas State leadership has already notified the Sun Belt Conference that they will be departing. So, the change is expected to take effect July 1st. So this league will finally have 8 football members so they can operate as an FBS football conference. You'll have Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, Oregon State, San Diego State, Utah State, Texas State, and Washington State. So, while obviously not the Pac-12 that most of us grew up on and remember from the glory days, it's at least still a conference, and I'm excited for it. I'm excited for Texas State. This is a great opportunity for them. And hey, the Pac-12 rebuilding. You got a presence now in the state of Texas at a big school. I think they got like 40,000 kids or something. G.J. Kinney has that program going in the right direction. 2 straight bowl wins, 2 straight winning seasons. So it's going to be a tough league. And as far as a G6 league, and look, anybody be realistic. Is it going to be a power conference? No. But it will be a G6 league, and it will be a good league. I like this 8-team format that the Pac-12 is going to have. All right, so that is your latest conference realignment. And if we have any more next week, we'll talk about it some more then. All right, guys. Next up, we got some scheduling breakdowns to do. So this week we're going to hit the independents. We're going to hit 3 of them. Oh well, yeah, we're going to hit 3 of them. We're going to do the other 2 next week. I didn't get UMass's schedule. That's my fault. But next week we'll do UMass and then Notre Dame, of course. So today, let's take a look. We're going to start with the Huskies of UConn, who had a really good season last year, going 9-4, winning a bowl game, beat North Carolina, I think in the Fenway Bowl. Let's take a look at what the Huskies have. They open up with Central Connecticut. That should be a win. Then you got a trip to Syracuse, who's in a rebuild mode. They definitely lost a lot, but who knows what will happen there. UConn, they're at Delaware, FBS school now. You've got the Blue Hens. You got Ball State at Buffalo, FIU. Game at Boston College, that'll be a tough one. At Rice, who knows what Rice will be. UAB, Duke, I'm going to count that as a loss because Duke should be good. Air Force, probably a loss. And then at Florida Atlantic. And then somehow I can't see the bottom. Let me make sure. Let me pull it up real quick. Or is it? Okay, that's their last game. Okay, I did not realize they end their season a little earlier than anybody else. But anyway, so this is a pretty manageable. I know some are going to say weak schedule, but guys, remember, it's UConn. Hey, Andrew. Hope you're having a good day, brother. But yeah, UConn trying to get to another bowl game, which would be a huge accomplishment. Jim Moore doing a great job up there. Very manageable schedule. Very manageable schedule. Maybe they duplicate a 9-win season. We shall see. All right, so let's move on. We're going to take a look at the 2 Pac-12 schools that are left right now for this year. Let's take a look at the Beavers. Let's look at Oregon State, who did not make a bowl last year, but should have some high expectations. Should get better this year. Look at this schedule. You open up with Cal. You got Fresno. Manageable, winnable. We'll see. At Texas Tech, don't see a win there. At Oregon, nah. Houston, who knows? At Appalachia State, that'll be an interesting game. You got a bye week. You got Lafayette of the Patriot League, should win that game. You got Wake Forest at home, very winnable. Washington State, of course, is Sam Houston, who's in a rebuild, new head coach. At Tulsa, a bye week, and then Washington State on the road. So obviously an in-season home and home for Oregon State and Wazzu. The scheduling agreement with the Mountain West kind of fell through, obviously for specific reasons. So you have a home and home in the season. But Beavers should be better. I like the schedule in some ways, but there's a few they're going to be very difficult. Cal will be tough. Fresno. That first month is really brutal. That'll be a very tough first month for the Beavers. But this schedule is manageable, and I think Oregon State has themselves in a position where they could at least get to a bowl game. Remember, this is the final year of the old Pac-12 bowl alignment, so Oregon State and our next team, Washington State, are both eligible for those bowl slots if they're eligible. Just like Wazzu. Wazzu, of course, was in the Holiday Bowl last year. Take a swig of coffee. All right. So there we go. All right. So the Cougars obviously lost their star quarterback, John Mateer. They lost their offensive coordinator. Going to be a rebuild here. They got a new head coach. but still a manageable slate in some areas. You got Idaho, you got San Diego State, very winnable games. At North Texas, a very winnable game, but North Texas is a sneaky team, I think, to watch in the American. You got Washington at home in the Apple Cup. At Colorado State, that's a couple of tough ones. You got your first bye week. At Ole Miss, that's going to be tough. At Virginia, who knows? Toledo's a really good G5 team to keep your eye on as far as the G5 playoff race for that spot. First game at Oregon State, your second bye week. Louisiana Tech, very winnable. At James Madison. Ooh, James Madison could be the class of the Sun Belt this year, so that's going to be a tricky one. Who would have ever thought we'd be in late November seeing Wazzu playing James Madison? Kind of weird. And then, of course, the second game with Oregon State. So, a lot of rebuild, but there is definitely, let's see, there's probably seven or eight very winnable games, I think, and who knows, maybe more, but Wazoo will be, of course, in, like I say, rebuild mode, just trying to get back to a bowl game. But this is what the Cougars face this fall. I like this. There's some difficult games, though. At least we're still getting the Apple Cup, because that's always been a good rivalry, even if Washington's kind of left Wazoo behind in the realignment world. All right, guys. I'm going to take a quick commercial break, and then we will be right back. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back here in just a few minutes. We'll be back here in just a minute. Be right back.
Look at me, lost at sea, circling eternally. Come and help me from this insanity. Where am I disgrace? I hate to see your face. I wanna see you drown in your sorrow. You know I know I'm not the same. I'm fading away. I'm falling into my grave.
All right, guys, welcome back. So we just finished up looking at some of the independents for this fall and their schedules. So now let's jump into the Big 12 conference games to keep an eye on this fall in the wild, wacky world of the Big 12. As y'all know, this conference was crazy last year, wide open with some really good teams. I think this year you're going to see a little bit of separation between the top and the bottom of this league. All right, so we've already done the G5 conference games to watch this fall. We did that last week. So let's look at the Big 12 for the fall, shall we? All right, so how about week 0? We got a conference game in Ireland, but Ireland's a pretty place, so I'm not going to give Ireland no crap for that. They'll enjoy this. How about Farmageddon, week 0, or Iowa State and Kansas State? That's going to be a huge game to start the season for that conference race. Two better rivals over in Ireland. Should be fun. You got two good quarterbacks, Rocco Beck and Avery Johnson. Two of the better coaches in the league, Matt Campbell and Chris Kleiman. That's going to be fun between K-State and Iowa State. I recommend week 0 watching that game if you want to get on watching Big 12 ball. Watch that rivalry. Okay, so let's fast forward to September 20th. We've got. I look at this league. I look at Baylor. I look at Kansas State. I look at Iowa State. Hey, babe. Thanks for tuning in. I see you there. All right. All right. So I look at Baylor. I look at K-State. I look at Iowa State. I look at Arizona State. I look at Texas Tech, and I look at BYU. Those are the 6 that jump out to me as maybe the preseason at least contenders in this conference. So we'll keep an eye out. That's at this moment. But we did make note of some other games, and TCU too. Okay, so September 20th, like I said, Farmageddon is week 0, Kansas State, Iowa State. September 20th, we got West Virginia at Kansas. A weird, wacky, but fun series. I don't know why, but I made note of that. Texas Tech goes to Utah, and then Arizona State goes to Baylor. That's a big one. That'll be a big one in the conference race. Tricky road game for the Sun Devils, who now are the preseason favorites to some. How can they handle being the hunted after winning the league last year in their first year? Now they're the hunted. All right, the following week, Friday night game, September 26th, TCU at Arizona State. That'll be a good one to keep an eye on in the race. Moving on, September 27th, we've got BYU at Colorado. Who knows what Colorado's going to be like, but I did make note of some of their games like this one. So UCF at Kansas State. How was the return of Scott Frost do for the Knights? That'll be interesting to see. All right. October 4th, let's see. We've got Colorado at TCU. If you don't remember this game a few years ago in Fort Worth, it was wild. It was good. Now, of course, a lot of that star power is, of course, gone with Shadur and Travis Hunter and those guys. They've moved on. But that's interesting. Iowa State goes to Cincinnati. Cincinnati always seems to find an upset in the conference play, so Iowa State don't sleepwalk here. Kansas State goes to Baylor. That'll be a big one in the conference race. October 11th, we've got Iowa State at Colorado and TCU at Kansas State. That's a couple of games to make note of. Okay, let's see. October 18th, here's what we got. We've got the Holy War, Utah and BYU. Come on, guys. That's a great rivalry. I love Utah and BYU. Very, very intense, heated rivalry. It's at Provo this year. West Virginia goes to UCF. Texas Tech at Arizona State. Maybe the game of the year in the conference at Tempe. It's at Arizona State. Could see these two again in the championship game. That's one to circle on your calendars. Baylor at TCU. Obviously the Blue Bonnet rivalry. They usually have great games every year. Sorry, I was reading this comment, guys. Lucas, man, what's good, buddy? My buddy is a UCF fan. Oh, okay. I wonder how he feels about Scott Frost back in Orlando. All right. Anyway, October 18th, Utah, BYU, Holy War, Baylor, TCU, West Virginia, UCF, and of course Texas Tech, Arizona State. That's going to be possibly the game of the year in the conference. October 25th, I made note of two games. Of course, Kansas State, Kansas, in-state rivalry. We'll see what the Jayhawks are like this year. Hopefully they bounce back because they closed as hot as anybody last year. I know they were 5-7, but they beat 3 straight ranked teams to close out the year, guys. And then Oklahoma State at Texas Tech. Who knows what Oklahoma State's going to be like? Gundy trying to rebound. We'll see. All right. November 1st, I made note of a bunch of games actually, but I put 4 of them on here. UCF at Baylor. This game was crazy last year in Orlando. Baylor won a thriller if you saw it. Arizona State at Iowa State, rematch of the conference championship game last year. That should be a dandy. Oklahoma State at Kansas, and then Texas Tech at Kansas State. I got another comment. He said I can ask. Well, you go ahead. All right. Let's see. November 7th, Friday night game. Not going to have an effect on the conference title race, I don't think. Just my guess right now. But could be a game to keep an eye on, at least as far as bowl implications. Houston at UCF. Okay, November 8th, we've got BYU at Texas Tech. That should be a dandy. Iowa State at TCU. And Colorado, West Virginia. The reason I made note of Colorado and West Virginia, I don't know why. Sorry, guys. But Rich Rod versus Dion just intrigues me between those two head coaches. Coach Prime against Rich Rod. It's got my attention. So, November 15th, we've got Arizona at Cincinnati. Could be another one to keep an eye on as far as getting to a bowl game. We've got Kansas State at Oklahoma State. Wildcats don't sleepwalk in Stillwater. And then TCU at BYU. So that could be another big one in the conference title race. All right, we'll flip over here. November 22nd, we've got TCU at Houston. Remember last time Houston played TCU in Fort Worth? Pulled the upset. TCU don't sleepwalk on these Cougars. They could be better. We've got Arizona State at Colorado. Kansas State at Utah. Chris Kleiman versus Kyle Whittingham. I like that coaching matchup. That's two of my favorite coaches in the sport. Black Friday, November 28th. As y'all know, the Big 12 likes to play on that day. They have a couple of games I made note of. Utah at Kansas, Arizona and Arizona State. Another great in-state rivalry. I know Arizona's kind of down right now and a little bit behind ASU, but never know. All right, and then closing November 29th, the final week of the season, we've got Colorado at Kansas State. When Colorado came back to the Big 12, I was so excited to see these two play again because it brought back the old Big 12 memories. You got Iowa State at Oklahoma State, Texas Tech at West Virginia. All right. So that is a Big 12 breakdown as far as conference games to watch. Should be fun. All right, next up, let's take a look at our at the ACC. This is the ACC conference games to watch this upcoming fall. All right. So as far as the ACC goes, here's what I'm looking at. Logo came back up. I'll leave it up for a second. I think, unless you're living under a rock, I think we all know Clemson's going to be the preseason favorite. But I don't think you can underestimate and write off SMU after what they did last season. Of course, everybody's going to be gunning for them. I don't think you can overlook Miami. I don't think you can overlook Louisville. I don't think you can overlook Georgia Tech. I think Georgia Tech's the sleeper team to keep an eye on in this conference. But not saying there's not potentially other good teams. I think Duke's going to be good. Pitt's going to be good, I think. So Florida State really can't go 2-10 again, can they? Can they? All right. So here's what I made note of. September 13th, BC at Stanford. BC, be careful. Louisville lost out there last year. But Clemson at Georgia Tech. They play each other every year. Could we see them twice? Could we see them in the ACC championship game too? It's in Atlanta. Clemson, be careful against that offense because Georgia Tech's going to score points. All right, September 20th, Tobacco Road rivalry games. I've got NC State at Duke. Who knows? That should be a good one. Also, September 26th, I've got Florida State at Virginia. If Florida State's going to be on their way back, Mike Norvell cannot lose this game. He needs that guy to win this game. If they lose this game, I got a feeling his seat's going to be really bubbling. All right, September 27th, I made note of actually quite a few, but we got Cal at BC. That could be interesting. Louisville at Pitt. Pitt's a place that's given Louisville trouble since they've been in the ACC. Virginia Tech and NC State. Duke at Syracuse. I know that sounds probably crazy, but Syracuse is not bad, but Duke should be really good. Especially with that new quarterback they paid all that money for in the portal from Tulane. All right. October 4th, we've got one of my favorite Northeast rivalries. You got BC and Pitt. Duke heads to Cal. Clemson at North Carolina, October 4th. Clemson should win the game. But I mean, look, you got Dabo versus Belichick. Dabo Swinney versus Bill Belichick in a head coaching matchup. Crazy times because I never thought we'd see Bill Belichick coaching college football, but we are. So Clemson and North Carolina and Miami and Florida State. I know there's going to be somebody's going to say something, but look, Florida State Miami was huge in the 80s and 90s and early parts of the 2000s. Florida State, like I said, they can't be this bad as they were again this year, can they? It's in Tallahassee, but it's Miami, Florida State. I'm always going to look forward to that one. October 11th, we've got Virginia Tech at Georgia Tech. You got Clemson at BC. Be careful up there, but all right. And then moving over October 17th, a Friday night doubleheader. We've got, actually, I'll mention the late game first, North Carolina at Cal. But you got Louisville at Miami. This is, unless something happens, this will be a huge game in this conference race because this is two of your contenders going head-to-head in South Florida. Because I think Louisville's going to be good, and obviously Miami's going to have high expectations. So Louisville, Miami, make note of that. That's a good one. October 18th, that Saturday, we've got another Northeast game, Pitt and Syracuse, which could be good. You got Georgia Tech at Duke. Georgia Tech needs to be careful. Durham could be tough on them. Duke's got some really good players on defense. Yeah, that should be an interesting game, especially Georgia Tech's offense against Duke's defense. And then huge game, SMU at Clemson. Rematch of last year's conference title game that SMU nearly come back and won. But it's at Clemson, so SMU is going to get a taste of Clemson. That's going to be a very good game. 6 days later, Friday the 24th, Cal at Virginia Tech. I made note of that. October 25th, NC State at Pitt. I think that's a sneaky good game. Virginia, North Carolina. I know Virginia is not expected to be that good. Who knows what North Carolina is going to be like, but Virginia, North Carolina, for those of you who live in the Carolinas and in that part of the Southeast, know that is a huge rivalry. It's the oldest rivalry. It goes way back. All right, so October 31st, North Carolina at Syracuse. Belichick gets a taste of the Carrier Dome, a place that can give teams trouble, as Clemson, and last year, as Miami. All right, November 1st, we've got, sorry about that. We've got Louisville at Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech at NC State, Duke at Clemson. For those of you who remember a few years ago, Clemson went to Duke on a Monday night on Labor Day, and Duke whipped them. Duke whipped them. I mean, they just out-physicaled them. They beat them. And then finally that day, another one of the, in my opinion, huge games in the conference, Miami at SMU. Elimination game, 2 playoff contenders. Should be an interesting game. Miami gets to go to Dallas and play SMU. That's going to be a dandy. Okay. November 8th, we've got SMU headed to BC. Syracuse at Miami rematch. You know the Canes want revenge for what Syracuse did to them last year. And then finally, it seems weird this game's lost some luster, but it's just an indication of where things are. But anyway, Florida State at Clemson. I always make note of that just because of the history. All right, so that's that. November 14th, we've got a Friday night game too. Clemson at Louisville. ACC put some of their best games on Friday nights, but Clemson at Louisville. If Louisville's going to get them again, this is a good opportunity to, but we'll see. November 15th, Georgia Tech at BC, North Carolina at Wake, Virginia Tech at Florida State. November 21st, I've made note. Oh, Andrew said, got you shared up. Oh, appreciate you, bud. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. All right, November 21st, Florida State at NC State. That's a Friday night game. Raleigh's a tough place, been a tough place to the Noles. Again, like I talked about with their game at Virginia, Norvell cannot afford to lose games like this. He's got to win these games after the disaster they had last season. And then November 22nd, I've got we got 3 rivalry games I made note of, and another huge game in this conference race. Cal at Stanford, great West Coast rivalry. I know neither program's super big, but still great rivalry. Duke, North Carolina, I know it ain't basketball, but I'd still watch them in football. Miami at Virginia Tech. Remember the dandy these two played last year in South Florida that ended in controversy? That should be fun. And then Louisville at SMU. Elimination game. Playoff hopes hang in the balance. Who knows? But Louisville goes to SMU. That'll be a big game. SMU won last year at Louisville. Can they do it 2 straight years? Okay. And then November 29th and the finales at the end of the year, we've got North Carolina, NC State. Very heated, intense rivalry game. Belichick gets his first taste of it. You got Miami at Pitt. Pitt, who I think is going to be pretty good, especially with what they got at running back and on defense. Yeah, Miami better be careful up there in the cold, late November. You got BC at Syracuse, you got Wake at Duke, and then Virginia Tech at Virginia. All right, so we are going to take one more break. We'll take another break, and then we'll come back, and we're going to look at some more schedules. Be right back. Alrighty, guys, welcome back to 4th and 25 with Jram. I appreciate y'all tuning in, guys. It's been a lot of fun today. Alright, so we touched on realignment. We've done the Big 12 and ACC games to watch. We looked at a few independents. We looked at Oregon State, Wazzu, and UConn earlier. So now, as part of a weekly series that I've been doing, we're going to look at a couple of more just individual team schedules, one from each power league and a G5. And then we'll do the AFC North here in a minute as we'll jump into the NFL for a little bit. Okay, so for our G5 schedule breakdown, we're going to look at another team who is going to enter the year as a conference favorite and a serious contender for the playoffs as far as the G5 position. Let's take a look at the Liberty Flames, who were kind of disappointing last year. They had a bad finish to the year. Their quarterback, Caden Salter, left. He went to Colorado. But they do return some key pieces, and they've worked the portal, I think, fairly well. So here's what Jamie Chadwell's group has. They open up with Maine at home. Then you got your first conference game at Jacksonville State, who last year, of course, won the conference, but new head coach, a lot of departures. You got to go to Bowling Green to face Eddie George's Falcons team. They could be a good team to watch. You got James Madison at home. Very, very tough game. Obviously, they're going to be one of the preseason Sun Belt favorites. That's going to be a tricky game. At Old Dominion, back to conference play at UTEP. You got New Mexico State and Delaware and Missouri State all at home. At FIU, at La Tech, and then Kennesaw State at home. So the back half of the schedule is, I ain't going to say easy because I don't want to dog those teams, but very, very manageable. So I look at the James Madison game as obviously the toughest, and then after that, it's very manageable. There's no reason this team can't be double digits, I think, winners this year. And they're definitely going to be in the mix for the G5 playoff spot, I believe. So, very manageable schedule. I know Conference USA is a weaker league than it used to be, but hey, you play what you got, right? Okay. So, we're going to shift gears over to the ACC, and we're going to talk about a team that, while we were just doing the ACC conference games, we're going to talk about an individual team schedule, and it's one of the contenders who caught the college football world by storm last year, had a great season, and don't let that playoff loss fool you. They had a couple of big mistakes and turnovers that cost them. Let's take a look at the Mustangs of SMU, shall we? They open up with... I got, I think that's Texas A&M Commerce. Yeah, that is should win that game. Then you got Baylor coming in. That's going to be a good one between the old Southwest Conference foes. Very tough game. Then you got to go to Missouri State, who you should beat. Go to TCU. Battle for the Iron Skillet. If you've never watched SMU and TCU, check it out sometime. Pretty good rivalry game, especially when both teams are really good. You got Syracuse, Stanford. Those are at home. Very manageable, very winnable. The trip to Clemson, that's obviously going to be brutal. Then you go to Wake Forest. Huge game with Miami at home. At BC. Huge game at home with Louisville. And then, of course, their finale at Cal. And the Clemson game, the Baylor, TCU, Louisville, Miami, those are the five that really jump out to me. Those are going to be the tricky, I think, the toughest ones. But with Jennings back at QB and some solid pieces around him and on the defense, I think SMU is very well positioned to be, if nothing else, another playoff contender. But I do expect, with Clemson expected to be really good, I think Miami's a wild card, but they'll still be solid. There's no reason why this can't be a 10-win team, but I could also see them take a step back into that 8-win category. So that's what SMU has for the coming fall. All right, next up, we'll jump to the Big 12 team. We just talked about them, of course, a lot on the Big 12 conference games to watch, but let's look at Iowa State, shall we? This is what the Cyclones will face this fall. Obviously, week 0, that conference game in Ireland with Kansas State, that's going to be an interesting game. I can't wait for that game, week 0. You got South Dakota at home. a good FCS program, but you should win that game. And then, of course, the battle for the Cy-Hawk Trophy, Iowa State. Great rivalry. Just like I said on SMU and TCU, if you've never seen this, watch these two play. Oh, I got another comment. My apologies. Mama is watching with you. Hey, Mama. Love you. Iowa State and Kansas State. Okay. No, I'm sorry. Iowa State, Iowa. Cy-Hawk Trophy, great rivalry game. If you've never watched this game, I highly recommend checking it out. These two always seem to put on good games, most times. Yeah, Arkansas State should win that game. And then back to conference play. You've got Arizona. You got Cincinnati. You got Colorado. You got BYU. Arizona State, TCU, Kansas, and Oklahoma State. Very look at that Big 12 schedule. You got K-State, you got BYU, Arizona State, TCU, all on that schedule. This is a tricky conference slate. And then of course you throw in the rivalry game with Iowa, but very manageable. I just realized it don't have the home and away on it, but we kind of touched on them pretty heavy a little bit ago. But this is what Iowa State's looking at this fall. Very manageable, but that conference slate's going to be brutal. If they can get back to the Big 12 championship game, in my opinion, they will have earned it. All right, so let's take a look at Nebraska. We're going to look at the Huskers this coming season, who finally under Matt Rule got back to a bowl game at least last year. 7-win season, I believe, when they beat BC in the bowl game. So here's what the Huskers looking like this fall. I got a Thursday night game with Cincinnati, and this is at Arrowhead Stadium, by the way, in Kansas City. So, but very winnable game. Akron should win. Houston Christian should win. And then hello Big Ten play as you open with Michigan. Whew, good luck against that team, especially that defense. That's going to be a tough one. You got Michigan State at home, very winnable. Road trips to Maryland and Minnesota. I really don't know what to think of Maryland, what they're going to have, but very winnable. Minnesota's going to be a tough game on the road. PJ Fleck will have his team ready for that one. You got Northwestern at home. Should win, I think. Very winnable. You got USC at home November 1st. Huge game. We talked about Mike Norvell in those games he can't afford to lose at Florida State. That's a game that Lincoln Riley really needs to win as a USC coach. But we're not talking about USC. Huge chance for Nebraska. Then you're at UCLA. That'll be a good game. Then you got a bye week. And I think I'm sorry, guys. I missed there's a bye between Michigan and Michigan State, too. But anyway, November 8th, you're at UCLA. November 22nd, at Penn State. Good luck with that. And then, of course, Black Friday, you have your arch rival, Iowa. So, 7 wins last year after the bowl win. This schedule, I'm giving them the non-con games. But I look at this schedule. There is potential to be an 8-9 win team and take another step forward in the right direction for this program under Matt Rule. So, I like the schedule, though. So, keep an eye on Nebraska. Okay, and finally, our SEC team for this week, Texas A&M, who has a loaded backfield. I am a huge fan of the running back room that Texas A&M has. If they can stay healthy, this is going to be a tough team to beat. They're going to be good on defense, obviously, again. They got a lot of cute assets back, and they worked the portal. But this is good. If they can avoid the injury bug and not lose a game that they are expecting to win, this is a dark horse playoff team, too, like I talked about with LSU last week. But here's the schedule. UTSA at home, Utah State. Should win those games. At Notre Dame, September 13th. Yeah, at Notre Dame. That is a monster game. Notre Dame, of course, beat them last year. But this is going to be a tricky one. And remember, Notre Dame's breaking in a new quarterback, but they've got a lot of talent around him. So, huge game there. You got your first bye week. Then you got SEC play starting with Auburn. Oof. Who knows what Auburn's going to be like. They should be better. But then you got Mississippi State at home. Then Florida at home October 11th. Monster game there. Florida, I think we all expect to be a lot better. You got the trip to Fayetteville to play Arkansas. Kind of weird. I'm used to them playing in Jerry's World, but they go to Arkansas. Arkansas, not super high expectations, but we'll see. At LSU, that's going to be very difficult. Your second bye week, and then your final month, you're at Missouri, who's expected to take a step back. November 15th, you got South Carolina. As we all remember last year, A&M went to Columbia and South Carolina. I'm sorry, my phone beeped over here. They got to go host South Carolina November 15th. A&M's got this one, circled after what happened last year when they lost in Columbia. Sanford win, and then, of course, the rivalry game at Texas. All right, so like I talked about, good running back room, good defense. Mike Elko's got this program going the right way, I think. Even though they did close on a sour note last year with the South Carolina loss, the Texas loss. Remember, if they had beat Texas, guys, A&M was going to be in the SEC championship game. As crazy as that might sound. And then, of course, they lost the bowl game to USC. So A&M needs to finish strong, but they've got the potential to do it. To me, I'm putting them at about 9-3 as a good possibility. I think because of the schedule strength, 10 is going to be very tough, but who's to say they can't, right? So that's an in-depth look at a couple more individual schedules. All right, so we're going to take one more quick break, and when we close, we're going to come back and we're going to wrap it up for the weekend with our top 5 pizza toppings. I'm a pizza guy. I love pizza, and I'm going to share with y'all my favorite toppings. So let's take one more break, and we'll be right back.
To hate Andrew Anderson, spitting truth that just can't wait. Got a podcast like a punch right to your face. College sports villain, taking it over the place. I bring the facts whether you like it or not. Dropping truth bombs, giving it all I got. They call me a villain. Well, I wear that badge with pride. Nothing but secrets they try to hide. Hard rock in my veins, rebellious to the core. I won't back down, won't take it anymore. The bad guy of the podcast world, that's me. Unleashing the truth, setting it all free. Unleashing the truth.
All right, guys, welcome back to 4th and 25. We're going to put a wrap on this show with one more subject, our non-football subject of the week. All right, so are you a pizza guy? If you are, awesome. So what I decided was my top 5 favorite pizza toppings. I'm a thin crust guy. I love thin crust. If you like stuffed crust, that's cool. That's your take. If you like personal pan, that's cool also. So what I just decided was to take my top 5 favorite toppings. Now, so that I'm not meat dominated, I did not put chicken on here, but I do love chicken on pizza. It's amazing. But I decided to give some veggies some spotlight too. So, at number 5, jalapenos. I like jalapenos on my pizza. Just take out the center because you don't want too much spice, so you might burn your mouth. But jalapenos are good on pizza. I don't care what people say. Of course, I like jalapenos on several things. But jalapenos on pizza with sausage or chicken? Come on, man. All right, number 4. Pretty standard, basic topping here, but I've always liked it. A bell pepper. I like peppers on pizzas, especially these simple, basic bell peppers. Love that green color, by the way. Number 3, this goes with the peppers. Onions. If you're an onion guy. If you're not an onion guy, that's okay. But I love onions, especially on pizza. Number 2, this is where the meat comes into play. Number 2, pepperoni pizza. A thin crust pepperoni pizza is dynamite. This is really good. Pepperoni is always, of course, a classic pizza topping. Goes great on it. And then finally, my number one favorite type of, oops, sorry, hey, let me hit that again. My number one favorite type of pizza topping, and this is my favorite pizza in general, sausage. Even though that might be breakfast, but anyway, sausage. So that is amazing, and it looks amazing, and I'm gonna stop before I get hungry right now. All right, and people ask you, how would you build your perfect pizza? Sausage, onions, peppers. That's a J-Ram pizza. You give me that on thin crust, I may not talk because I'll be trying to eat the whole thing, and I'll pay for it later. But that is J-Ram's top 5 pizza toppings for the weekend. All right, guys, this has been fun. I'm surprised I still kept it under an hour, but thank you guys. Oh, got a comment. Pepperoni with black olives. Yep, babe, I know you love black olives, so pepperoni and black olives, your specialty. I know you love that, and that's all good. All right, guys, thank y'all for checking me out this week. I appreciate those of you who watched and checked this out and stayed on board and watched the show. Next week, we're going to do UMass, Notre Dame, obviously, and then we're going to do SEC and Big Ten conference games to watch in the Power 2 leagues. If there's any more realignment news, we'll talk about that. And then on the NFL side, we will look at the NFC North. We'll look at Green Bay, Chicago, Detroit, and Minnesota. All right, guys, this has been fun. Preview magazine season has arrived. I got my Lindy's, and I've got Feel Steel, the best magazine in college football. Love that magazine. It's actually digital. It's on my iPad. So we're 55 days away from the season, guys, and it'll be here 8 weeks from yesterday. Hard to believe it, but it's coming day at a time. Appreciate you guys as always. Love y'all, and we're going to close the show like I do every week with a Bible verse. Today's verse, Matthew 5, verse 9. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Jesus is amazing, and he loves all of us. Thank you, guys. I appreciate y'all so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care. See y'all next week. God bless.